Hi guys, welcome to another video of our Python 101 series, and today we are going to talk about typecasting, also known as type conversion. So what is typecasting? Typecasting is a process of converting a variable from one data type to another. In our last video, we saw that there are four different kinds of data type in Python. So typecasting talks about converting these four types of data type into one another. So for example, converting integer into float, float into an integer, float an integer into strings, floats into booleans, and etc. etc. So we're gonna dive deep into the topic of typecasting today. So in Python, there are basically two kinds of typecasting. First is implicit typecasting, and second is explicit typecasting. Let's first see what is implicit typecasting. Python automatically converts one data type to another without losing any information during implicit typecasting. Remember this, without losing any information and automatically. Okay, so let's see when that happens. Okay, so I have defined four different variables of different data types, so integer, float, string, and boolean. So when does implicit typecasting happens? So implicit typecasting mainly happens when performing arithmetic operations. In Python, whenever you are performing arithmetic operation between two different kinds of data types, Python will automatically convert the type of the data. It will automatically decide what to give the type of the result. Suppose here I am taking a sum of my integer and my float, right? So 10 plus 5.5 should be 15.5. So if I run this, we can see here the type of this sum is float, and let's also see what is the value. It's definitely gonna be 15.5. So 15.5, and the type of the sum is float. Now I did not decide what will be the type of my sum, but Python automatically did it for me, and Python will make sure, not, as I said, not without losing any information. Now how it makes sure without losing any information? Whenever Python is implicitly converting the data type, it will make sure to convert from lower to higher precision. Now when I say lower to higher precision, what do I mean? And float is higher precision than integer. Now how, what does that mean? Let me show you an example. Suppose we have 10.00001. This is one value. Now don't you think while representing this in an integer, we can just write 10, or just like in round off of this value. 10 can be also very similar to this, right? But which is more precise or accurate? We know that float is more accurate because it has more precision. It gives us actual value is 0.0 10.0000001, right? So that's why float have more precision in Python. So that is why whenever converting implicitly, Python will make sure to convert from lower to higher precision in order to not lose any information. Okay, so this is everything you need to know about implicit typecasting. Mostly it happens in arithmetic operations, and the data type is converted from lower precision to higher precision. So anything you do, either addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, percentage, everything will be taken care accordingly. Okay, now let's see what is explicit typecasting. So explicit typecasting is when a programmer manually converts one data type to another using built-in functions. So that is called explicit data type. Now here we as a programmer, we will convert integer to float, or float to integer, or string to integer and floats, and anything to strings or booleans, and etc. So how we can do that? So we do that using built-in functions in Python. So what are the built-in functions? Let's see. Let's go one by one. Let's start by converting from my integer to this all the other values. Okay. So whenever I want to convert my integer, so let's see, uh, int to other data types. Okay. Now I'll give this. Okay. Now let's take this integer and convert to different data types. Let's see, let's first convert it into float. So my int to float. Let me give the name of this variable, my int to float. And now since we are converting from int to float, we will use a function called float. Float. Now inside this, whatever value we pass, that will be converted into float. So I am gonna pass my int. Okay, let me not give this indentation. Okay, so I have passed my int. Now let's print type of this, my int to float, and the value. Okay, let's print the value as well. Okay, now let's run this. You see this my int to float. Now since our integer had 10, now it has a higher precision, 10.0. It is converted to a float. You can see the class as well. Okay, similarly, while when you want to convert it to string str, we use a built-in function called str. So let me pass my int and let me just print it. Similar to this, I'll just copy and paste here this last value. mm, str str. Okay, let's run it. Yeah, now it's converted into str and 10 is printed. Okay, so whenever you are converting any value to a string using str, the same will be converted into string, and it will be inside a double quote, and it will be a string of a string class. So 10 will come as 10 only, but it will be a string. So similarly, when we convert into boolean, now whenever we convert any value into boolean, the conversion boolean will give true if it's 0 or 0.0 for integer and float, and for string it will give true if there is any value in string, like any alphabet or number, anything in string, even a space will give true. But if the string is empty, it's gonna give false, and for 0 and 0.0 it's gonna give false. Okay, so my int to bool, if I give, now for converting into boolean, I have a function called bool. So I will give my int. Okay, so let me run this. Let me print this, my int to bool. Okay, now you see, since the value was 10, we are getting true as our result. Now let me convert this to 0 and let me run it again. Now you see it came false. Okay, so this is how boolean works, conversion of boolean works. Now this is regarding int. Now let's convert float into different types. Float to other data types. Now let me take my float. Okay, let's convert it into integer first. My float to int equals to, now similarly, while converting into integer, we'll take a function called int, and there we'll pass our value. So my float I will pass, I will just print, let's print the type of my float also, that also I'll show to you, and also the value I'll show it to you. My float to int, my float to int. Okay, let me print it. Now you see it is converted into int, but one thing to notice here is our floating point has 5.5, and when we converted it to an integer, we only have 5. Why? Because as I said earlier, it has integer has less precision than float. So whenever we are converting from a higher precision to a lower precision, we will lose information. This is very important for you as a programmer to keep in mind. Whenever you are converting any data from higher precision to lower precision, like float to int, you have to make sure it is according to your need, that even the loss of information will not affect you. If that's not the case, you have to use it very carefully. As we lost zero point 0.5 here, so you have to be careful with that. Okay, now let's move on to converting our float to a string. Similar to our integer, it will also use str. Okay, let me give spaces here. Sorry about this. Spaces here. Okay, so let me print this. Okay, so my float, I'll give my float to str, and here I'll give my float. Okay, my float to str and my float to str. Okay, so when we run this, now the last one we can see the type of my float to str is again str, and now whatever the value as when it was 10 it came, whatever the value is there here, it will come in string as it is. Okay, now similarly again for boolean also, it's similar to what I said for integer. If the value is not 0 0.0, it's gonna get true. If the value is 0 0.0, it will be false. uh, let's take that also. My Okay, let me print. So you see it came true because we had 5.5. If I give 0 0.0 and run it again, we'll get false here. Now whenever you're converting into boolean, even if the number is negative, I said anything anything else than 0 and 0 0.0, right? So it is gonna give true. So see, minus 10, sorry, I gave minus 0 0.0, sorry. So minus 1.12, something like this. So you see here also we got true, and here also we got true for both of them. For this also we got true, and for this also we got true. Okay, so let me revert this back. Okay, okay, now this is about converting float to other data types. Now let's talk about converting string to other data type. Now here we have some things to be considered. Okay, now let's take our string first. Let's take our string first, that is my string. Okay, now let's first start by converting into an integer to int, right? So here I will use my int function, and I will pass my string, and I will just print this, print my uh, my string my string to int, right? So what do you think we'll get? We'll get same 20, because here it was 20. Now whenever we are converting string to a float or an integer, we have to make sure that we only have the compatible values. Now what do you mean, what do I mean by compatible values? I cannot have 20 is a number, something like this text, and expect this to get converted, this 20 to get converted into an integer. No, that can't happen. You see, we will get an invalid literal for int error. So we'll have to have the proper number. Okay, now if we run 20, now previously here I told you that whenever I'm converting my float into an integer, I will lose some value. Now what if I give a floating point value inside my string, and I try to convert that directly into an integer from here? My string I pass directly into an int function. So what do you think is gonna happen? Let's run and see. So basically we will get an value error. Why? Because whenever inside a string, when my int function is converting my string into an integer, it will see the number, and as soon as it encounters this decimal point, it will think that it is a text rather than it is a number, because integers only take whole numbers, right? It will not take any decimal numbers. So don't think like integer will take the value, convert it, and then give me 20 as an output. No, that is not gonna happen in case of string. Okay, So that is one thing you need to keep in mind. Now, uh, so it has to be a whole number if you want to convert into a string. So done. Now let's do that for conversion of string to float. So my string to float. So we'll use float and we'll pass my string. Now, but here, even if you pass a floating point value or a normal whole number, it will automatically convert it to a float. So integer cannot convert from a string containing a floating point directly into integer, but you can do by one thing, that is first convert it to float and that then pass that into an integer. And now if you do, you see we will get a value 20. Okay, so I gave to 20.4 here, but I'm getting 20 because first I converted into float. Okay, let's not do that. Okay, so huh. So here when converting to float, if I give my string, now even though I give a whole number like 20, my float will directly convert it into a floating point value regardless of if it is a decimal point or not. Let's give 20.4. Now let's see, let me comment this so that it don't give error. So I forgot to print this. So print my string, my string to float. Okay, now if I run this, you see 20.4 is printed. Okay, I hope you get this. I hope you got this. So not to get error, I'll just give it as 20. Okay, now when it comes to boolean, I already told you anything uh, bool. Okay, I forgot to convert the string into boolean, right? Okay, let me do that. So my string string to bool is equals to similarly same bool and my string, my my string, and I'll just print this, print my string string to bool. Okay, so since my string contains some value, this will give me true. This will give me true. Now if I give an empty string, let's see what happens. These two will give error, so I'll comment this. So now you can see the answer is false for the last one. The print statement printed false because it did not have anything. Now even though if I gave a space, no, that will also be considered as a value. So if I run, you see again it will come true because that will also be considered as a value. So let me give 20 here again. Okay, so that I can uncomment this. Okay, now lastly let's convert bool to other data types. Okay, so while converting boolean to other data types, whenever the boolean value is true, we know boolean can only hold true or false. Whenever it is true, it will give 1 for float or int if you are converting into float or int. If you are converting into string, it will just print this whatever is there, true or false. Let's see. So my bool to let's say int equals to again while converting into int, I'll give int of my bool. Okay, let me print this and run this. Now you see it gave me 1. Now similarly I'll do for float also. um, I'll do for float also. Okay, so you see it gave 1.1, 1 and 1.1. Now if I'm converting it into a string, it will it will give me whatever the value it is there. If it is true, it will give me TRUE. If it is false, it will give me FALSE false. So my bool to str, here I'll pass my bool, then my bool to str, here I'll pass. Okay, now let's print this. Now see, the type is str and it just printed TRUE. Now if I give false here, let's see, by giving false as well, false as well. Now if we run, you see 0, 0.0 and FALSE false is printed. Okay, uh, I think I covered everything regarding implicit and explicit typecasting. If you have any doubts, please let me know in comments, and also do drop the reviews. If you need any improvements on my videos, you can definitely give me reviews. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next video.